We're talking about skewness. Now, at certain times, what might happen is that now since you are solely making your conclusions on the data, you don't know what is happening in the entire data, that is your large population. Now, your sample could be such that you are observing that X bar is close to Z, or your Q3 plus Q1 is close to 2Q2, which is indicating that your measure of skewness is almost close to zero, which which is telling you that your data is normal or it follows normality. But on the other hand, your curve, shape of the curve is such that though it is symmetric, the peak is very much sharp or the peak is very much flat. So what is this telling is that it is not only sufficient you will look into the values of X bar and Z based on the skewness, you should also look into the type of the peak produced by your data so that helps in concluding whether actually your data is normal or not. Now, as said, the again, three types of distributions based on kurtosis. So, kurtosis, the word kurtosis comes into picture if you are talking about the property of the type of the peak or what is the peakedness type observed in the data. Now, based on the three categories of the peaks, we classify the distribution into three cases. Case one, where your peak is neither too sharp nor too flat, we call it as a moderate peak, or such distributions are said to be peak similar to normal distribution. So we call that as normal, or in terms of kurtosis, we'll call that as mesokurtic curves. So meso indicates that you have a distribution where the peak is similar or close enough to normal distribution. On the second case, we have a peak such that it is sharp, and all such sharp peak curves are called as leptokurtic curves. And then we have platykurtic curves. So that is, basically we are looking into the structures. You have two congruous or a platypus erected such that you're producing a flat peak or a sharp peak. Now all these are the behavior properties captured by kurtosis. So kurtosis is simply defined as peakedness around the region of mode, or simply you can call it as the behavioral property of peakedness based on the data you or the level of or the measure of peakness observed. You can categorize them into moderate, that is mesokurtic, leptokurtic, and platykurtic. How to identify this from the data? So you have again certain measures, and these are based on what called as moments. So these moments are defined such that they capture all, most of the measures of central tendency, dispersion, your skewness, your kurtosis, and we define arc moment as mu r, and we define that as the average of the arc distance, arc power of distance of x from x bar. So you can put your r is equal to 1, r is equal to 2, r is equal to 3, and capture these values. And we use these first four moments, and they are called as central moments because we are obtaining the deviation from the central measure arithmetically. And using these moments, mu1, mu2, mu3, mu4, we talk about the measure of kurtosis that is indicated by beta 2 given by the formula mu4 by mu2 square. So there exists a formula from where you can capture what is actually happening to the kurtosis. Now, by analyzing the value of beta 2, you can see whether your curve is leptokurtic, platykurtic, or mesokurtic. So if you compute beta 2, and if you observe beta 2 is equal to 3, that indicates that the curve is shaped exactly normal. And based on this, you can talk about the skewness also. So moments can be used to talk about mean, your variance. So beta 1 is a measure indicated to look into the type of skewness. and that is given by the formula mu3 square divided by mu2 cube. And if you look into the value of mu1, when you put r is equal to 1, you get sigma x minus x bar whole to the power of 1. And while discussing the property of mean, I said your total of x minus x bar is always equal to 0. Therefore, mu1 is always 0 for all your distributions. Now, if you look into the value or the formula for mu2, mu2 is total of x minus x bar whole square by n, which is nothing but the square of the standard deviation. So I just gave you the formula for standard deviation. It is square root of sigma x minus x bar whole square by n, and square of standard deviation is called as variance. So this mu2 is actually numerically producing your variance. So your moments, arc moment, captures your mean, your variance, your skewness, kurtosis, and if you want any other properties, you could further go with mu5, mu6, and so on and generate any moments. But the commonly used cases are mu1, mu2, mu3, mu4. Now this is about the analysis of univariate data. Now to summarize them, we have some objective. We have to do some study. So I know the objective of the study. So in order to meet the objective, I have extracted the data using the sampling techniques or the scientific techniques available in the field of statistics. Now, the number of data points you have extracted to conduct your research work, that is called as sample size, indicated by small n. Now, if you really want to do the study and you want to generalize the whatever the observations you have made for that entire population, then you should have an estimate of the sample size. So if I want to conclude that 99% in 99% of the cases, people who practice yoga, they will really observe reduction in the blood pressure. In that case, what should be my sample size? So we have the sample size estimation technique. That's the first case whenever you are extracting the data. The next case, if I want to do some estimations or if I want to do some hypothesis testing, in that case, I should have the assumption of the normality to be followed. So what we do, we compute our measures of central tendency, our measures of say position like quartiles, or you could obtain the measures like arc central moment or the first four central moments. So you try to capture what is the value of mean, what is the value of mode, what is the deviation, what are the values of beta 1 or beta 2, or you could look into Cartesian skewness or kurtosis. And if you see that your values are such that it is indicating a normal stretch for the data, then you can go ahead and deal with the other statistical tools which are available to do the inferential statistics. And the case where you fail to achieve the normality. So again, statistics deal with certain cases which are called as, I could say it is the tests which are not based on the assumptions of the distribution. They come under the category called as non-parametric tests. So we'll also do that. So, but as said, in most of the variable which is related to the field of biology or medicine, if you extract the data, we could easily see that the data follows normality. In order to achieve that, your sample size should be large. So if you just pick 20, 15, or 30 observations, you need not, have the assumption of the normality validated easily. So if you are picking, at least 100 or 200 observations randomly by following the statistical procedures, then in most of the cases, normality can be achieved, and then we can go ahead with the further part of the statistics. This is why we need the analysis of univariate data, and these measures, what all we have talked about from the yesterday's class, they come under the category called as descriptive statistics. So whenever we have observed a variable, the very first step in quantifying them is producing some of the descriptive statistics. And as said, the most commonly ones are mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and you need CV. And if you actually want to talk about skewness kurtosis, you can have a look into that. Otherwise, these cases are sufficient. Now, the next question, what is the next step after observing this. Now, our objective is to see what is actually happening in the larger population based on the sample selected. So we can look into the techniques of uh, uh, deciding what is happening in the population based on the sample. I will look into some problems and see how to compute this mean standard deviation. See, we have done an exercise, I guess, on these cases yesterday. So I have shared some problems. You kindly see how well you can compute those for all the cases given. And for the cases for regarding the measures standard deviation and CV, we'll take one or two problems and we'll understand this. You can tell me which problem shall I consider? Two files. Let me pick one question or two questions from each of this and help you. Let us take the first one. Okay. And the first file called as exercise 1. First, there are three cases: discrete data, continuous frequency distribution, and raw data. So we have raw, discrete frequency distribution, where you have x and f, and then you have continuous frequency distribution given by class interval and frequency. So I'll take one under each case and I'll show how to compute the standard deviation. So I'll take the question number 1. So we'll look into calculation of standard deviation and variance. The technique what I use in finding standard deviation is based on arithmetic mean. So arithmetic mean is a part and parcel of SD. So I have to compute x bar first. So we have x values. So it is just x values. So the problem comes under the category of raw data. So first we'll make a list of the data points available. 20, 30, 15, and 20. So we need to obtain the value of arithmetic mean for the data. Arithmetic mean is given by the formula total of x divided by n. So you can solve along with me if you want to have a practice and verify the result. 8 plus 19, then we have 25, 28, 30, 15, 5, 22, 15, 18. So the total is coming to 275. So my mean will be 275. So I have 15 observations given. So the mean comes to 275 by 15, that is 18.3. Our mean is a recurring number here. So if you really want to practice the computation of standard deviation by using x minus x bar whole square, so since we are using only 2, 3, or 4 digits, so we are making some error, marginal error, and that will be carried here also, because after subtracting we'll square them. So this method involves the calculation with certain error. So that's why we avoid the calculation of standard deviation using this formula, but we will use the simplified form, which is summation x square by n minus x bar square. So I'll compute it in both the methods and I'll show you how slightly the answer varies, but it is all based on how or which method you feel comfortable. So if you want to have really less number of steps, and if you want to obtain, without having into the calculation difficulty of subtracting and square, then don't follow this method. Just compute the values of x square and obtain the total of x square. So this is indicating sigma x square. Now there are two ways of understanding this: sigma x square and sigma x square. So this means total of every squared value of x. You are computing the square of every value and then there you are taking the total. So here you are obtaining the square for the total of x, and both are completely different. So if I say sigma x square, I will square each and every value. So this 8 square, then 19 square, 25 square, 28 square, and so on. So compute the square of each and every value and then obtain the total. So that is the another technique of computing the standard deviation. I said you either look into one of the techniques. So I'll show both. You select any one method and you completely thoroughly follow that method in solving all the problems so that at the examination the computation becomes very easy. Okay, so first I'll come to complete this part and then I'll obtain the other case. 8 square, 19 square, 25 square, 28 square. Meanwhile, you can complete the table there. So I'm observing the total of x square to be 5949. So if I'm using this technique, then this is square root of 5949 divided by 15 minus 18.3333 square. So first obtain the quotient, the square of this, and obtain the difference, and then take the square root. This is producing an answer. Sigma is equal to 7.775. Now following the other method. In the second method, you have to actually subtract every x from the mean and then take square. So this will be 8 minus 18.3333 square. 8 minus 18.33 is minus 10.33, and if you square that, you'll get 106.7771. The next value will be 19 minus 18.3333 square. Comes to 0.4445, then 25, if you haven't purchased a calculator, please purchase a calculator and have a practice session on mean, median, mode, and standard deviation. Since we compute the total of that, that produces 907.3335 and divide that value by 15 and obtain the square root of that. We will get 7.77746 or say it is 5. So I said both will produce the same result, same numerical value if you have correctly done the procedure. But this is time consuming and a bit confusing also. So I suggest you stick to this method where you write your x values, you'll obtain the total of that. For every x, you'll compute x square, you'll obtain the total of that and use this formula. Others who feel that this is very easier for us because we can just do it in a single step, and that is also fine. So this is how you compute your mean standard deviation for a raw data. And if you have a look into the value of your coefficient of variation, which is given by the formula standard deviation by mean into 100. So we have observed standard deviation of 7.775 and your mean is 18.3333. Hoping that percentage. So have 42.4226%. So we are observing 42% of variation within the data. So if you have CV of another distribution, say have some other set of variable y, and for that you are observing say CV is around 18.98%. You have distribution Z where CV is say 64.33%. Then if you look into the three values of CV, minimum CV is observed here 18.98. So you could select the distribution y as most consistent, and if x, y, z are the same variable, I mean this capturing the same characteristic, then you could go ahead with set y because set y has least variation, and least the variation I could say roughly say much symmetric the data will also x bar and z will be closer. Whenever we say the values are tightly packed or closer to each other, your x bar and z will be naturally closer. When your x bar and z are naturally closer, x bar minus z, the calculation skewness becomes closer to 0. So can go ahead with that. So this is how you select the good distribution based on the measure CV. So lower the value of CV, more uniform and more consistent the distribution is. Now coming to the calculation of standard deviation for frequency data. So your standard deviation is same. So instead of just doing x minus x bar whole square, you have to multiply that by f before taking the total and divide it by sigma f, or if you want the simplified form as we did in that case, it will be sigma fx square by sigma f minus x bar square, where your x bar is sigma fx divided by sigma f. And this is the formula for both discrete frequency distribution as well as continuous frequency distribution. In case of continuous frequency distribution, we take the values of x as midpoints for the calculation. So the formula itself tells you what are all the steps you have to follow when distribution is given to you. So I'll roughly give you the steps. You try to compute them, and you can share your answers for one or two problems in your group. So let me take your discrete frequency distribution. So no discrete frequency. 6 1 is very large. Okay, so I have second problem, and the x plus 1. I have number of people observed in a party 10, 20, 30, 40, 60 over different set of parties 4, 20, 18, 12, 4, and 1. So this is the discrete distribution what I have. Now if you look into this formula, what it tells is that first compute the value of x bar. So x bar is computed using the total of fx. So I have to multiply f and x for every pair fx, obtain the total, and then you have the total of f. So you need the total of f, obtain the mean. Can you quickly do and tell me what will be the value of mean? So this total of fx is coming to 1960. Total parties 24, 18, 12, 9, 63. So 1960 by 63 gives us 31.1. So roughly on an average, there are 31 people per party. That's the interpretation. So see these values. And next step is doing x minus x bar whole square and then multiplying that with your f. So as we did in the previous case, subtract every value of x by the mean x bar and take the square. And then in the next step, you have to do f into x minus x bar whole square. So it mari is f na multiply mari. So I'll show the working for the very first case. So 10 minus 31.1111 produces 21.1111 with a negative sign. When you square that, you will get a positive number, and that is 445.6785. Now this has to be multiplied by the respective frequency. Frequency is 4, so into 4 produces 1782.714. So do this for every pair of x and f. That will fetch you total of f into x minus x bar whole square. And use this value here, divide that by sigma f, take the square root, that produces standard deviation. Now, if you look into the calculation procedure, it is time consuming as well as people who don't have the knowledge of square, the difference, negative sign, you might feel a bit difficulty in the calculation. So for them, what I suggest is you do as you did in the previous case. Instead of doing x minus x bar and x minus x bar whole square, just compute x square, multiply x square with your f, and then obtain the total of your fx square. So you have x values given. Now squaring x value is very easy. 10 into 10, 20 into 20, 30 into 30, 40 into 40, 50 into 50, 60 square. So you got your x square. Now multiply every f with the respective x square. So 4 into 100, 400, 20 into 400, 8,000, 18 into 900, 16 200, and then 12 into 1600, 19 200, 2,500 into 4, 10,000, and 3,600 into 5, 18,000. Obtain the sum of that. So here also you should be careful. Your fx square indicates f into x square. It is not fx whole square. So fx namatta square multiplied by you have to compute x square multiply x square by f. So if you look into the total, 400, 8,000, 16,200, 19,200, 10,000, 18,000. So which is 71,800. Now substitute that value in the formula of the standard deviation. This produces 71,800 over total frequency 63 minus the mean square 31,111 square. So first you take the difference and the square divided by 63, 1139.6825 minus the square of this 967.9005. Now take the difference and the square root of that. That produces the standard deviation as 13.10. So roughly 13 number on an average, 13 people vary from party to party. The count varies. This is the interpretation and we can obtain the C. Now when it comes to the continuous frequency distribution, instead of giving you the values of x, we will give you the class intervals. So when you have class interval, from the class interval, you compute x as midpoints. So you got your x. Now proceed as usual as you did in the discrete frequency case and compute the standard deviation. So if not for the class interval data, we'll try to avoid class interval data in the examination, but most of the cases, we will definitely give you your x as well as xf for the calculation of mean as well as standard deviation. I have shared various set of problems, types of problems, and even in the books where you have downloaded from the PU website, you can look into chapter number 5. And in the syllabus, these concepts are under block 4, unit 13. Block 4, unit 13. You can go through the concepts there. Okay, so I'll stop here. So please do some exercise problems. If not all, at least you know 2 in each case for raw, discrete, as well as continuous. And now the time for doubts and other discussions.